Hello Freedom Church, my name is Rose. I am based here in Freedom Raleigh in North Carolina, and I'm here today to do our Psalms Devo. So today we're going to be looking at Psalm 144. This is a beautiful psalm, and honestly I think I could probably just read it to you and it would minister to you, but let's try and pull some of the truth out of this psalm for our day to day. It starts off like this. It says, "Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle." This whole psalm is really a warfare psalm, and it reminds us of the posture that we need to have when we find ourselves in warfare. You know, lots of us in the situations that we're in right now can sense the battle that's going on around us. Maybe it's something that you've got your eyes on, maybe it's something that you're really aware of where the battle is in your life, and maybe it's something that's taken you by surprise. But the Bible reminds us to be alert, to be sober-minded, to be mindful of the fact that there is an enemy that wants to discourage us, to disqualify us, and to take us out of the race. And so we need to be those who are trained and ready for war. And that's exactly what David is speaking about right here. But I love that this is how it starts. He says, "Who trains my hands for war." David at this point is the king of Israel. He is a military warrior. He's a leader of men. He's had success for many years, but he isn't talking about the training that he's been through. He's talking about the training that he's in right now. It's an ongoing relationship with our God. He doesn't just train us one time and then send us out into the field. He trains us day in, day out. And I love that David, with all of his success and all of his authority, recognizes God as the one who trains his hands for war every day. I just want to encourage us to ask God to continually train our hands for the warfare that we find ourselves in, and prepare us and strengthen us and make us alert to what's going on around us. But he goes on and he just talks about how God responds to him and who God is for him in his warfare. So I wanted to just share a couple of verses from this psalm. First of all, right at the beginning, David boasts about the closeness of God in warfare. He says, "He is my steadfast love and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield and he in whom I take refuge, who subdues peoples under me." David knows that when we're in warfare, God is so close to us. He's right next to us. And I love that in that whole rundown of attributes of God, he starts with, "He is my steadfast love." You know, he's a fortress and a stronghold and a refuge, but he is my love. He is the one in which I find myself and the one that I fight for. So first of all, in those first few verses, he talks about the closeness of God in warfare. But then he goes on verses 3 to 8 and talks about the power of God in warfare. When we feel like we're in a battle, when we feel like we're going through the wars, we need to know the power of the one that fights with us. He says, "What is man that you would think of him?" You know, God is so much further above and higher than us, and yet he cares about us. He's with us. But David used all of this powerful imagery of bow your heavens and come down, touch the mountains so they smoke, flash forth the lightning, stretch out your hand from on high and rescue me. There's a great power in knowing that God is the Almighty, that he is all strong, he is all capable to save. And then in verses 9 to 11, David reminds us of the worthiness of our God, that whatever situations we face, he is always worthy. He says, "I'll sing a new song to you, who gives victory to kings, who rescues David, his servant." David is here posturing himself in worship. And we know, and we say it often, that when we're in war, worship is such a weapon to us. So David's showing us the closeness of God in our warfare, the power of God in our warfare, the worthiness of God in our warfare. But he finishes up with this call for peace in the midst of warfare. He starts to speak about the provision of God's peace when we're fighting. And he says, "May our sons in their youth be like plants full grown, our daughters like corner pillars cut for the structure of the palace." And he goes through these provisions of peacetime and asks for the provisions of peacetime in a world of warfare. And I just think it's really beautiful how he reminds us of the greatness of God and the power of God, but he also evokes the promises of peace when we feel like the battle is happening. It says, "May there be no cry of distress in our streets. Blessed are the people to whom such blessings fall. Blessed are the people whose God is the Lord. And it's just a great perspective reminder that even if we're going through the trial, going through the fight, we can still call on those promises of peace, because God wants to bless our relationships with peace, our provisions, our experience with the peace that can only be found in him. So I hope that blesses you today. Keep fighting. God is training your hands for war. We'll see you tomorrow.